It's time for Teacher Feature, when you get to meet one of the fantastic faculty members at the Academy. Today, we're excited to introduce Karen Glenn, class of '85, who returned to Albuquerque Academy in 2021. This time, not as a student, but as a member of our faculty. Karen is a history teacher and serves as the chair of the history department. During her time as a student at the Academy, Karen was a true standout. She was a 4-year varsity soccer player, competed on both the softball and basketball teams, and earned the title of class jock. Off the field, she brought a creative eye to campus life as a photography editor for the yearbook. Karen's journey from student athlete and artist to department chair is a remarkable example of coming full circle, and we're thrilled to have her back at the Academy. Karen, welcome.
Thank you.
So, Karen, take us back a little bit to your time as a student here. Do you remember your parents making that decision? Where were you in that decision? What was the Academy like in the early 80s?
Back in the day?
Please don't talk about ABBA.
Actually, it wasn't my parents' idea for me to come here. I had a friend in 8th grade who said that she was going to apply to the school. And so I went home and told my parents that I wanted to apply to the Academy too, because this other person was going to be applying. And so they were like, okay, my dad knew of the Academy. He worked at Sandia. And so he, knew the reputation, and, they didn't push it at all. And so then I got in. And they said, okay, if you want to go there, then you can go there. And so I came. So it wasn't really like a family decision or anything like that. It was mine.
So tell us a little bit about your time at the Academy. And, girls were a relatively new phenomenon at that time, what it was like in the classrooms, on the campus, interactions with faculty. Just your general memories then.
Well, I wouldn't say that I was an academic standout. I came from public school. I wasn't really sure, what I was getting into. I came from a good public school. I don't want to demean that at all.
Right.
But it was very different to be in small classes. There were definitely fewer girls in the classes. Even when I was a senior, I was the only girl in my senior English class. Roy Morgan will remember that. He was a classmate of mine in that class. I remember really finding my comfort level, my comfort zone at the school was on whatever field or court that I was playing in, or in the dark room doing photography, which I really enjoyed. I mean, and that was loading the film canisters, getting the paper, putting the chemicals, like doing the whole thing. Right. And I really enjoyed that.
And what are some classes that you remember? 'Cause I know we've talked about this, but, what were you taking? And did you find parts of it like frustrating or appealing or inspiring or I'd say even debilitating?
Well, math is not my subject, which is why I'm in the realm of history. I remember all of my math classes because I struggled mightily in those. But I remember at the time my JV basketball coach, Such, was I think it was Algebra 1 teacher. And he was kind of a gruff man, but he was very, very helpful. He tried really hard to get me to understand. And Vince Cordova was my geometry teacher. And I remember him calling my dad.
He's been on our show.
Yeah. I remember him calling my dad one time, trying to figure out where my disconnect was. But again, they were all very, very kind. And I remember reading a separate piece in, I don't remember what year in English, but I loved that. I remember wishing the old man would catch the fish faster in Old Man in the Sea.
Yeah.
And I took German, and it wasn't a huge German class, so I was with those kids every year, and I certainly enjoyed that. And I'm trying to think what else. I took creative writing. I was told that my characters were kind of flat. Which I remember writing about boarding school, and I think that I wish that I had
Huh.
known somebody or anyone who had
Huh.
gone to boarding school, and that I think I would have enjoyed that.
So what about athletics? I mean, you coach at the academy now. You've seen like the school grow from when you left it, and the enormous success we have on the boys' side and the girls' side. What was it like for you?
I loved soccer.
Mm-hmm.
And when I came in, I came off of an AYSO team,
Mm-hmm.
so I wasn't playing in
Mm-hmm.
the select yet and all that kind of stuff. And I remember coming to the school and trying
Yeah.
out, and I wore glasses and
Mm-hmm.
was kind of very introverted, and then I found out that I was actually good at it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was on the varsity team as a freshman. I didn't play that much, but I
Yeah.
worked my way up and really found my confidence in that space.
Mm-hmm.
And then they asked me to play partway through basketball, on the
Right.
varsity team, and I'd never played basketball before.
Now you had batches.
No, actually,
Oh.
she coached the JV team the year that I was a senior, but I remember that. I remember.
So does she, and so do all of the women now
Oh,
who
yeah.
played on that team, actually.
Yes, I remember watching that.
So you finish at the academy. Talk us through a little bit of the transition to college.
So, I had in my head that I was going to be an attorney. I was going to go to school in Southern California. I wanted to be an attorney, and I couldn't have been more wrong about
Right.
where I probably should have gone to school. But I went to University of Redlands, and I liked the school, and I played on their soccer team for a couple years, and I think I was too young to go to school. I graduated when I was 18 or 17, and then so I turned 18 as a freshman, and I think gap year would have been
Good year thing for
right
you.
up my alley, but that wasn't a thing back in the day.
Yeah.
My parents would have absolutely said no. But so I came home after I graduated from college, and I worked for an architect here for a year, and then I decided to go back to school, and that's when I really. I wouldn't describe myself as an academic, but that's when I became very serious about school.
And so how did your path lead to teaching?
Well, that's an interesting question. So I decided to get a master's in history because that was the subject I liked the most. But then I didn't know what I wanted to do with it. And I met a couple people in grad school, and that was going to be their path. They were doing social studies work, and they were getting certified in North Carolina to do that. And so I said, okay, I'll do this. I'll just do it for 2 years. And then I'll go figure out what I'm really going to do.
Right.
And so that 2 years turned into 33.
Right. So you spent the majority of your career in North Carolina in both the public school sector and at Charlotte Latin in Charlotte. And what brought you back to the academy? I mean, you were there a long time.
I was there a very long time. I was in North Carolina for 30 plus years. So really I came back. I will say I had looked a couple of times before I actually applied at what was open, just kind of fiddling around. But my daughter went to school at where I taught. So it was not, I wouldn't have wanted her to have to move schools. But
I think she would have liked the academy.
I think she would have loved the academy, actually. I think that during COVID, it became very clear that my parents needed some help. And so the department chair position was open. And so
yes, I remember.
I was kind of like, oh, I'll apply and we'll just see what happens, and as fate had it, I think it worked out really well, I hope, for everybody involved.
Absolutely.
But it was it afforded me the opportunity to come back and help my parents.
So you've been at the academy for 5 years. It has been 5 years of a lot of change, and people like to talk about. But what are some of the changes you have led? I'm also in your department.
Yeah.
In the way that we are thinking about the teaching of history in terms of curriculum, pedagogy, topics, order, skills. Why don't you take us through some of the things that we've been working on?
I think one of the most interesting things when I came back was this conversation around humanities, and whether or not that was going to be a requirement. Because I definitely remember that. Clyde didn't talk about that when you asked me
Right.
the question about classes previously. But I I think it was a good change because it allows people to kind of have a different resume when they graduate from here. I think back in the day when I graduated, pretty much everyone had the same, transcript. So I think that changed.
And that was the same in 2020
Yeah.
too, at 21, right? Yeah.
I think it was wise. It allows for that differentiation. I think, to continue with the topic of differentiation, I think everyone thinks that AP classes are supposed to be the epitome, and not everyone is cut out to take that type of a class. And I think a couple of the things that we added in the history department, one being the Advanced American Studies, which is a writing heavy advanced class for sophomores. I think that was a nice opportunity for kids who maybe didn't want to do the standardized test situation to have that choice. I think that adding the advanced electives with the capstones, I think that also gives students the opportunity to differentiate themselves, and also kind of pick a topic and go more into depth with that, which oftentimes in the survey classes we just can't do that.
Yep.
I think that moving U.S. history to 10th grade has also been an interesting development. I think that there were questions around whether or not 10th graders could handle APUSH, and I think they've done quite well.
Yep.
And it kind of streamlined the requirement process, since you have to have 9th, 10th, and then they can choose 11th and 12th. So I'm pleased with how those have.
And they choose. They opt in, which is really the best space to be in. And that, it's funny when you talk about the humanities. For me as an outsider, that was a pretty straightforward kind of decision, but I knew that it wasn't for the academy. But that change was led by 3 administrators who were alums, like you, class of 85, Liz Payne, the class of 2005. She was the English chair at that point. Christine Lenhart was the 10-12 division head. She was class of 94. And Stephanie Lipkowitz, who wasn't an alum, but was so well known. And simply by allowing, not eliminating, but not requiring kids to take English and humanities. So right now we have 7 sections of humanities. 4 different senior English electives. And overall, we have about 20 kids who still choose to do both, which is great. We've made it humanities very heavy in writing. So and we classified it as an English class now, has allowed kids to take all different kinds of things in the sciences and in history, in world language, the arts. And I think they're just healthier, because they have some choice in that, as opposed to, 6 buckets were already kind of locked up before you even start. You want kids to love learning, and they can do this in a whole variety of areas. So, I think it was brave and not as hard as people think, or at least for me, it wasn't.
I think what people were surprised about with that is the number of students that continued to do it. They were like, we're still going to take this, and their older siblings tell them to take it. And, and even 4 years removed from the decision, the class still remains and has a healthy enrollment.
But as opposed to having kids who really wanted to take maths or science or do that, and they're in this space of 2 courses that are maybe not in their top 6 even, right?
And I think that's one of the biggest changes, when you look at what the academy offers. Granted, it's much larger than it was when I graduated, but just the sheer number of opportunities that the kids have here is amazing.
A lot of times people remember their history classes as basically rote memorization. And to some degree it was. How has the teaching of history changed since you started, decades ago? And what's our approach to teaching history now?
That's an interesting question because, in doing it for 30 some years as you have as well, I mean, we've had to change from all kinds of, different types of things where everything was multiple choice and you had to memorize dates and, names, dates, and dead people. And, people weren't that excited about it. And I could lecture for a really long time.
Right.
And boy, would you like it. But, so I think that over the years, primary sources have become the focal point. I think visuals, art has become part of the focal point, and being able to make connections between eras and current day, that those types of things are more important. And I think you have to still fight the conversation, particularly with AP kids. They're like, well, how am I supposed to memorize this? And I don't want you to memorize it. I want you to tell a story. And if you can tell the story and understand the cause and effect and explain that, you're going to be just fine.
Right.
So I definitely think that has shifted for the better.
Yep. I mean, I love the American studies approach, which you can make it in any studies, but looking at art, religion, newspapers. When do newspapers become primary sources versus secondary sources? Music, geography, maps, and really assessing the quality of a source and how does that source, what isn't included in something, and how do you ask those kinds of questions, and far less teacher centered certainly than when I remember in school. And there are such things as facts. It's not like that they've gone away.
Sure.
But it's not simply the spitting them back, but an analysis and a synthesis of them, and being able to articulate those ideas in a variety of forms.
And I feel like it doesn't matter the age of the student. All of those things that you just mentioned are accessible to any kid.
Right.
And you may actually be able to tap into their own personal interests by using music or art or, even science of that day.
What do you think's next for the Academy? I mean, you're an alum, you are a veteran master teacher. What do you think we need to be looking towards, like even after we're done? What's the next phase for the school, do you think?
I think continuing on the path of being representative of the city, that's very, very different from the experience that I had here. And it was something that I spoke frequently to my colleagues in Charlotte about, because it's an intentionality that I think should continue. I think continuously going through the elective process and assessing what students will be interested in, and giving them that opportunity to choose is something that's important. I think making sure that we're staying up to date with how to operate with AI or whatever. I can't even imagine what's coming after whatever chip's going to get planted in your head. But staying abreast of those types of changes, I think will be really important. The school's curriculum has to be relevant for the school to continue. And they've done an excellent job of that for 70 years.
Is there anything else you want to touch on?
You know what I would add? I would love to see the school think about more study abroad opportunities, even if it's not go and live somewhere for a semester, but to do more course centered travel opportunities.
Yep.
I think those, I know in my previous school experience, those were just phenomenal
Yep.
opportunities for students to take what they learned in the classroom. And it doesn't have to be language, because I don't speak a second language, but travel was a huge part of my persona really at the other school. And I think being able to study, I don't know, the Sistine Chapel, and then to take them and watch them look at it.
I agree. And, spent over a decade of my career abroad, and see the absolute value of living in a culture of travel, of being uncomfortable. For me, it's been figuring out how to help families pay for it. And we are a little bit of a different kind of school than the schools in the East or on the coasts, in a way that I love. But, families scrap to come. Right. And then those trips are not inexpensive. So how do you either fundraise specifically and endow funds that, $1 million provides $50,000 that we can use to travel, or at least defray costs, which is really what I would want to do in a more systematic way. And then I'm like, yeah, let's go. I've wanted to take people to Jordan and then do a border crossing. Let's go into Jerusalem, tie it to world religions, tie it to the history. I'd feel very comfortable doing it, but I'm like, how am I going to ask families to spend that kind of money just on airfare? But yeah, throughout Europe, throughout Central and South America, I love our global exchange programs. I think that has been that's a great feature. It's how do you expand it, and how do you give more kids access to that? But I know what you're saying. It's not simply an exchange in that way, but just a trip and a travel. I wish that we did more, and that's certainly in the realm of possibilities. I mean, listen, if somebody wanted to help fund that, I'm like, I will make that happen like immediately. That is not, I have no fear of travel. I'm much less risk averse than I think most heads of school are in that way. And I find that people are fundamentally good, kind, and want you to visit. Right. What's
and will help you.
Yeah, what's amazing is that there have been exchanges we've wanted to have with schools in South America and Central America. They look at Albuquerque and say, we're not going. So it's been a little bit of the reverse. I think people were shocked here. Like, what do you mean? Everything's fine here. And, but they look at the crime rates, or they look at that, and I'm like, we're really fine at the academy, believe me.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I think you're dead on.
Yeah, and nothing's as fun other than letting 14 and 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds try and figure out the metro system in London. In another language.
Yeah, or just in London.
Or just in London,
right. Yeah.
Or going to the markets. I had a colleague that taught me how to travel really with students, and she always took us to whatever the open air market was.
Love it.
And so I do that now with my daughter, or people that I travel with.
We're now on to the part of our show called Lightning Round. Are you ready? I see you're a frequent listener of What I Learned in School, aren't you?
Indeed.
Okay, you ready? Red or green?
Red.
Early bird or night owl?
Early bird.
Does history really repeat itself?
Yes, I think it does.
What historical figure would you like to have dinner with?
Joan of Arc.
Why is that?
I just don't understand. I don't understand how she was able to, get the backing of the Dauphin to lead the troops. And I would love to just kind of have that conversation. Mine
would be Lincoln.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah. I have had this fascination with him. I've read virtually every book there is on him. And Yeah, I'd love just to have a conversation. That, and I'd love to have dinner with my 4 grandparents in their prime.
Oh, wow.
Like,
All at the same time or separately?
No, all at the same time, but in their prime. And I guess that this question isn't about me, but I've offered my answer.
No, I think that's great. Yeah.
What's your favorite spot on campus?
My favorite spot on campus. Oh gosh, this is not lightning round, is it?
Don't worry, he'll cut this.
That's a hard question. I actually love the gym. I really do. I don't have any cause really to go over there very often, but you know how certain places still smell the same?
Oh yeah.
Like that gym still smells exactly the same as it did in 1980.
I love it.
3.
Yeah.
And when I walk through there, I have very distinct memories of
being a kid,
people, and what used to be around, and
including Taryn,
including Taryn.